we're essentially therapists. It's a massive therapy session, and the person is a company, and we go through every little aspect of it, and we're little doctors or whatever, and we diagnose and help them diagnose by talking to each other, actually communicating, arguing, aligning, finally agreeing with what they need to do moving forward.
Whether you're a CEO evaluating product strategy or you're a designer that's struggling with stakeholder alignment, these frameworks are solving similar problems across all industries. And I think the story that we will tell you today really shows how Impact has the right approach for creating lasting competitive advantage. It's really a set of principles that continue to drive success across our current partnerships.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Make an Impact, where we deep dive into the real stories behind successful digital transformations. I'm Makoto Kern, founder of Impact. We've been in business for over 20 years, launched hundreds of digital products, and provide the cheat code to successful software product launches. We turn chaotic B2B and enterprise projects into predictable wins through proven strategic workshops and de-risk roadmaps. Today, we're taking you behind the scenes of how one restaurant management tech client went from an unfocused status quo to market innovator in just 6 months. I'm excited to introduce Scott Harden, our product innovation strategist. Scott solves the problems most companies face. They either move too fast and build the wrong thing, or they plan forever and blow budgets when they finally ship. He's mastered the art of balancing strategic speed and direction, helping leaders align with their teams and launch products that users actually want. Scott.
Thanks, Makoto. Thank you so much. Welcome all. I'm Scott Harden of Impact, and I do help clients disrupt the status quo. I get them focused on developing innovative products that help them refocus their goals, and I help them reconnect with their customers so that they could design and deliver great solutions that drive adoption and customer growth. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. So before we dive into the transformation story, let's set the stage. Scott, tell us about the client and why their challenge was so compelling.
Sure thing. So the client is a leading restaurant technology company. They provide all-in-one RMT, which means restaurant management technology, to restaurants of all sizes, and they built a solid business over about 20 plus years. The transformation that we're going to be talking about today, it happened during a critical growth phase for the client. It demonstrates principles that we apply now across many of our partnerships. And this case actually became a blueprint for how we approach similar challenges in the e-commerce space.
Yeah, can you give us an overview of what this transformation achieved and why it's worth studying?
Yeah, the digital transformation strategy that Impact designed for this client demonstrates consistent principles that we see working across the industries that we serve. Over the course of this engagement, we took the client from a fairly disconnected, sort of incongruent set of software components to more of a holistic ecosystem, and it was mainly focused on that connected restaurant experience capable of increasing revenue while also maximizing guest experiences and satisfaction.
So what do you think make this transformation so critical? I guess what can other companies learn from the stakes involved?
Yeah, this client was in a position similar to many in the restaurant management industry, really dealing with the risk of obsolescence in its legacy hardware, its POS, which is point of sale hardware technology, and its software. And it's really, about the risk of loss of market share to some of the emerging players in what's really a very competitive space restaurant tech is. US restaurant management technology, again, that RMT acronym that I'm using, it's really a large and fast-paced growth market. It's got rapidly shifting competitive dynamics, and it's really defined by a highly fragmented set of players. I mean, essentially, this market is really up for grabs. So really, the consequences of inaction are exactly what we help companies avoid today. The underlying dynamics are pretty universal. I'd say, in fact, the market pressures that the client navigated, early have become sort of industry-wide challenges now, which is what really makes their approach and what we brought to the table really a proven roadmap for current transformations.
Yeah, so why don't you give us a summary of the approach you used and how it's evolved since then?
Yeah, the approach we've honed with our engagements with many clients across really all industries, it's really divided into three essential phases. The first phase is strategic planning. It's where we engage with the client and their top decision makers to set a vision for the future, to really get them to set ambitious goals. And not only that, but identify measurable success targets. And then ultimately, what it leads to is a strategic roadmap to communicate change and motivate the organization. The second phase is near-term implementation, which is really, where we identify the low-hanging fruit, things that can be deployed today to initiate change downstream. You could, really think of it as building the foundation for success for the future, those more ambitious endeavors which would come next. And then the third phase is really thinking long term, not in really sort of two parts. One, what are things that we can do, ambitions that we can accomplish, objectives that we can achieve that are long range, that are blue sky? It's really that chance to enable ambitious change and accountability. This blue sky really serves organizations for years to come. And so we help them develop the necessary blueprint for success and then also measure that success.
So you're telling me just jump right into wireframes and development is what we should be doing?
No, not really. I mean, this process, it's really a kind of a timeless process. I think that's relevant, like I said, for all clients and all kinds of industries that we serve. Strategic thinking, vision casting, implementation, road mapping. We'll dive into that, but it's really been validated across a lot of the engagements that we've had before with this client and since then. I mean, whether you're a CEO evaluating product strategy or you're a designer that's struggling with stakeholder alignment, these frameworks are solving similar problems across all industries. And I think the story that we will tell you today really shows how Impact has the right approach for creating lasting competitive advantage. It's really a set of principles that continue to drive success across our current partnerships.
What red flags did you see that convinced you this was a company in crisis?
Okay, so when we first met this client, they gave us a walkthrough of some of their core challenges, like most clients do.
Mhm.
We knew that they were losing market share to their competitors. The company had gone through a series of acquisitions, and so they had gained all this headcount. But they also had a lot of tech debt from, all of this legacy hardware, point of sale hardware that they had, and corresponding software that they had, acquired through these acquisitions. What was happening is it was taking them too long to onboard new clients, and they also were essentially just taking orders from really large chain restaurants that they had worked with since the beginning of time. But that was really at the expense of growing the platform to serve all customers. So, what they told us is that many of their lead engineers who have been with the company for ages were pretty resistant to change. And, really, we've seen that a lot before. And what that really means is that you've got, legacy folks that are effectively holding evolution back or innovation back. They're really sort of holding the product hostage. All this told me, the company was being led, pretty much from the bottom up, from the engineering team and not the product team. And there certainly was little to no agency from sales or customer service to evolve the product in the right way. The business, is far apart from the customer. We saw that much of the platform was a cluster of features that were sort of organic. That they weren't strategic. They were coming about organically. There was also competition from staff on feature priority. A lot of folks had different views about where the product was going. Like I said before, there was a lot of, legacy software and hardware. And I think that's notable because it was really slowing down the onboarding of customers, of new customers, which is critical for growth in a competitive space. They also had a lack of self-service customer features. And so it was putting, a lot of dependency on staff and really bottlenecking on customer support staff to launch online ordering, brand new online ordering sites for new customers. And I think most importantly, when we think about change and innovation, there was absolutely no design standardization, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think these are all good points that you brought up, and I think it handholds us when we try to make better design suggestions and recommendations, we're really handheld to a lot of these problems that we identified
Yeah,
right here, where we can't make change and change for the better because of these issues. And
absolutely.
so
Yep. Very
you really
typical.
stunt the growth.
Yeah, often with clients similar to this one, it's just that classical organizational dysfunction around product decisions that are critical to the company. They really, quite frankly, work against themselves, their own best interests. Like I said, you'll encounter multiple stakeholders with completely different visions of what the product should be. Here's an example. Like the sales team often promotes features that don't exist. We've seen that happen. You would think
Mhm.
that would not be something that why would it what a sales team do that, but they're trying to hold on, they're trying to entice the customer to stay loyal to the brand, and then the engineering team will build what they think users want, but they're not doing any research in the field as to who the users are and what they want. And then the executive team, the folks who are ultimately accountable, often make product decisions based on what they see their competitors having. At this beginning stage, they really appear to have accumulated what I call UX debt. You hear a lot about tech debt, but they had a lot of band-aid solutions built on top of band-aid solutions in terms of how customers were using the software. So it was really a user experience problem. They had attempted two, internal redesign efforts over the previous 18 months, but both of those failed because they didn't have a shared, understanding of who their users actually were and what problems they were trying to solve. That, design team was creating, decent interfaces for workflows that actually didn't make sense to actual users, and we could see evidence of that. So, from this client, we really uncovered, if we could summarize it in one phrase, organizational misalignment around design decisions. That the client was managing multiple digital products with inconsistent UI, styles and patterns. They were, like I said before, in efforts to quickly address individual customer requests, they had implemented these sort of hackish design fixes that lacked strategic coherence. So all of these efforts fell short because there wasn't really any shared understanding of the users and what problems they truly needed to solve.
Yeah, and I think what I see a lot happening in these organizations are they're always playing catch up.
Yep,
What is our competitor doing? Let's just try
100%.
to copy that,
Yep,
because they're too scared to be innovative and
yep.
leapfrog. So they're always having to play that game of, okay, what did this company do? What do they do? If they did it, then we'll do it. I mean, that's just playing it way too safe, and you'll never catch up.
Yeah, no, you hit it. You hit the nail on the head because it's really about in a competitive market, you can't afford to play follow the leader. You have to be the leader, and so that really requires some courage to take bold steps. And you're really only going to get through that if you truly connect with your customer and you develop a unified voice about where you're going.
Let's jump into it. We get the project. What's the first step to engaging?
Okay, so we get the gig and we're ready to go. And at Impact, we are very careful not to do is jump right into solutions without fully understanding the problems and the root causes that cause those problems. In my years of experience, 1 hour phone calls, a one-off scoping requirements meeting, it doesn't really get it done. You really have to dive deeper. You have to have more active listening, and you got to hear from multiple stakeholders that are commissioning the project. Different stakeholders, I guarantee you, will tell you different things. Their perceptions of users will be different. Why they think the problems are happening will often be different. And most interestingly, what they think is the actual solution is different. And that's okay. It's our job to unify that into a consensus moving forward. We want to make sure that they're not misaligned on their key company goals. We want to make sure that the vision and mission of the organization is embraced. And if it's not, let's make changes. And then, more tactically, design consistency is always a problem. But it's not the problem. The biggest issue is misalignment. That's the first thing you have to do is get everyone aligned. So we always kick off any engagement in the first phase, which is what we call the immersion phase. It's basically a series of working collaboration sessions, either virtually or in person, doesn't matter. We're very flexible, where we assemble the core stakeholders across product, leadership, engineering, and the C-suite. And we sort of call it a controlled collision. It's really that opportunity to develop a strategic roadmap for transformation and innovation and acceleration. So we do this by one, we reaffirm or affirm a company vision and mission. Why are we doing this work? Why does it matter? And then we align on long-term business objectives and key success results. So what does the business want to achieve over the long term? And then how would we know if we were succeeding in getting there? It's also alignment on who the core customers are and what their outcomes should be. You can't design in a vacuum. You have to engage your customers as partners in this process. And then we look at what gaps in product capability are keeping us from reaching those goals. And then ultimately, all of that funnels into a change roadmap that builds in organizational transformation to get us there. And, this is where things got interesting with this client because we started this process as I just described it. And so day one, we were in the room with our stakeholders, folks, the CEO, head of marketing, head of product, head of engineering, head of sales, and others. And it, interestingly enough, day one really turned into a series of disagreements about where the business was headed, what its outcomes were, what customers want and should have, or even who the primary customers were. So very, very revealing session. And at the end of the first day, thankfully, the chief product officer put the brakes on the process and said, you know what? We need to have more organizational input. And so we pivoted immediately and worked with them to schedule an offsite. And this is an all-day session in a nearby hotel, its conference facilities. We invited over 100 people, key leadership across the entire organization in marketing, sales. Basically, it was director level and higher across the entire organization, even operations. And we put the same questions to the organization. We had to divide and conquer in different groups, different breakout sessions. But what came to us from that process is that the answers were staggeringly different from what the C-suite and what the stakeholders that we had initially met with said. There was just fundamental disconnect of where the organization was going and what mattered. So we were able to, went through a series of scaled consensus building exercises. We were able to dance among the breakout rooms. Makoto, you were with me. You
I mean,
engaged in this process.
we're essentially therapists
Therapists,
for an
that's right.
organization.
Product
It's
therapists,
a
product design therapists. Thank you. That's a great way to
it's
encapsulate it.
a massive therapy session,
Yeah.
and the person is a company, and we go through every little aspect of it, and we're little doctors or whatever, and we diagnose and help them diagnose by talking to each other, actually communicating, arguing, aligning,
Yeah.
and finally agreeing with what they need to do moving forward. So that
Yeah.
way, us as trying to solve the actual product problems don't have to go to each individual person for months and get different answers. This is what gets us to better
Yeah,
results
and
faster.
to be honest with you, it was an incredible morale booster to do this process. It took people out of their daily lives for a day, and no one had ever asked them really, where should we go? What matters? What are we doing? They had opinions for sure, but they never felt taken seriously by leadership. So I really think that that your point about therapy is really a great one because it improved culture in the organization just from a 1 day retreat. And
Yeah,
so,
people want to be heard.
yeah,
And
absolutely. They want to be heard. And, when you talk about human-centered design, that's what it's about. It's about hearing humans. So we took this all back to and resumed the main immersion workshop, and then we continued the immersion, and we had consensus from the organization to continue. And so we went through that process. What came out of it were really three main big opportunities. One, our online ordering enablement is broken. It's fundamentally broken. It's about building what we really want to seize the day on is building a leading digital ordering experience that's device and location agnostic. It drives order growth and it solves for all ordering situations, including loyalty and marketing programs. And that's a big vision. The other tactical problem was that tech debt is breaking us. We've got to modernize our code base. And we didn't really at the time know how broken it was. We hadn't been under the hood. We hadn't looked at their code base. We just took their word for it. And then third, increased integration capabilities means increased market share. We need to be able to integrate with our customers and other technologies more flexibly. With all that in hand, those were the marching orders. And so what we ended up doing is going back to work, firming up feature ideas, working with the client that would deliver on these three opportunities, and then assembled them in the ultimate artifact of the process, a strategic roadmap that served as a North Star for digital transformation. And we'll show that.
I'm curious. In video games, cheat codes let you skip months of grinding to unlock special abilities instantly. Have you ever wished for something similar for your software challenges? What if there's a way to instantly access 20 plus years of specialized expertise instead of developing it all internally? What if you could solve in weeks what might otherwise take months or years? Would you agree that most organizations face a steep learning curve when implementing new software solutions? At my company Impact, we serve as that cheat code for companies looking to transform complex software into intuitive experiences that users love and that drive real business results. Would it be valuable to explore? And how might this work for your specific situation? Visit impact.io for a free strategy session focused on your unique challenges. All right, so once you had that alignment from the workshop, how did you translate those insights into actual action? What was your strategic approach?
Yeah, so we have this strategic roadmap. The client has signed off on it. It's good to go. Very happy from the workshop. And so the roadmap now is our guiding light. And so it identified a longer objective to fix online ordering. So we knew what the what and the why was to get that done, but now we had to go out and figure out how we're going to do this. And so that meant doing some homework. In Impact, when we go about solving a big problem, we hate working in silos. We thoroughly engage with the client. The stakeholders on the project, they're really the best people to understand the problem. They know their problem and they know the subject matter. And so, the best way to start that creative process is to engage in a design sprint. Design sprint is the classic process that you read about in that sprint book by Jake Knapp. But we turbocharge it and we modify the process to fit our needs and the needs of the client. But the gist is effectively, it's about lining to the core problem and the root cause. Let's identify the users we're serving with the solution that we're going to come up with, and then let's align to the core opportunities to fix the problem. And then what's most excitingly, everyone sketches real solutions to solve it, all the participants in the sprint. And then ultimately what that leads to is a killer prototype that Impact designs and develops that the organization can test with actual users. And this all happens in a matter of days, not weeks, not months, days, which saves a lot of time when you think about a couple of concentrated days working on a prototype and getting real validation to continue rather than having one-off meetings or siloed conversations, and it just takes forever. So that's what we set out to do. Here are some snaps of the workshop. We assembled folks from product sales and from customer onboarding. It was actually a great group of folks. Really a creative team engaged in this design sprint. And we wrote together an opportunity statement. It reads, we'll increase SaaS subscriptions by 2 times within 12 months if all users can achieve access to the best and newest features to enable a high-end online ordering experience with a self-service template editor. So that's what we're going to build. We're going to build a self-service template editor. We aligned around a core customer, which was the small and medium restaurant owner or manager. And so then we went about sketching killer ideas. Everyone, regardless of artistic ability. It's really an empowering process because everyone's got a great idea in their head. And so we get that out and on paper, and then we can build on great ideas. So the one that got the most traction was this 5 minutes or less concept that basically we called it the Wix of online ordering. Basically, it allowed a restaurant manager to build an online ordering experience with killer state of the industry design templates in 5 minutes or less. We tested the prototype that we built with, and when I say prototype, it's not a coded solution. It's not something you spend millions of dollars developing. It's literally a series of sequenced sketches that we then get in front of actual users just to find out if we're actually heading down the right road or not. And if we're not, we haven't spent much time, we haven't spent much money. So it's really low risk. And so we tested this prototype with 4 to 5 restaurant owners who do not use the client services. And the concept got them super excited. They told us that, if this thing was built, they would absolutely become loyal customers. So we then took this back, all the success that we got from testing, back to leadership, and got the authorization to sort of plan out and build what's called an MVP, which means minimum viable product. It's building the solution with enough fidelity so that we can actually get actual customers using it. And so everyone is pumped. We're totally set to go. Everything's exciting. And then,
So let me interrupt you there. So let me explain to the audience exactly what an MVP is. A lot of times people think you're starting off, let's say you're building a car as your outcome. They think you're building first the tires and the doors and the engine and then your car. That isn't it. What actually an MVP is, it's the product's first functioning pilot version with the basic kind of feature set. So you've probably seen these images where it's a skateboard, then a scooter, then a bike, then a motorcycle, then a car. That is what an MVP process should look like.
yeah, it's the idea that at every stage of the process, it's a usable piece of software
Yep.
that has value for a customer. Even if it's very simple, customers can use it. They can actually complete a task.
Nice. So,
So we got our MVP. Everyone is pumped, and off we go. And then
what happens?
we hit a major roadblock. We looked at the code base of the customer's platform, and it would be quite kind to say that it was an absolute mess. To be able to build what we wanted to build on top of something like this hornet's nest, there was just going to be no way that we would accomplish the goal of what we set out to achieve. You remember, customer success and business success was supposed to happen within 1 year. And with a code base that's full of legacy code that's been hacked together over many years, no way. The tech debt that we saw when we got under the hood was significant. It was layer after layer of pain and suffering. And that's being generous. And so the way their product organization was structured, with so many low-level project managers reporting to a single VP of product, we could see that any rapid deployment of this new idea would just bottleneck at the top. So it would be hard for this work to occur at scale in the time frame. So we really had to look at streamlining the operation.
Yeah, we've seen this with so many clients as well.
Oh yeah, this is not unique. This is very common to the types of clients that we see, and it's a reason why they aren't able to move forward at scale, accelerate, be more innovative. But in this case, it really was going to harsh our mellow when it comes to realizing an ambitious 5 minutes or less experience and try to double customer engagement in a year.
Did you say
So
harsh Armello?
I did.
All right.
Yeah. So, we knew we had to find a way to develop this MVP much faster. So, what we've done in the past and what we propose to this client is to form a think tank, a tiger team, rapid deployment squad. Doesn't really matter what the name is. But for many clients in this situation, basically, we need to find a way to leapfrog over what exists to get to tomorrow. Thus was born the Labs initiative.
Labs. This is a really important thing for the audience to know as well if you're trying to innovate. Can you tell me more about, or the audience more about that?
Yeah, so the labs is an effect. It's basically a scaled, learn, expert-led, and driven product mini team, and it's built to accelerate innovation. We enable these types of structures with any client. It doesn't matter how what the scale, the maturity of their product organization is, but essentially the design principles of a labs team are: we're going to innovate further, faster. We're going to predict the future. We're going to tackle hard problems. We're going to manage the objectives and key results. So, as an organization comes up with goals, we're going to manage those goals. We're going to speed up delivery and increase brand trust from the customer experience. And Impact brings a partnership to this. It's not just client team members, it's also Impact team experts. And the idea is to build a full stack of designers and tech, the front end developers, back end engineers, database experts, infrastructure specialists, and that labs initiative would ultimately have a client manager. But effectively, what we're building is a product, a well-functioning product org. And then for those members of the client that are working within the labs effort, we teach them to fish so that at some point when we roll back from the structure, that the client can continue this framework
Yeah,
moving forward.
I think that's an important point where the clients, usually clients, they have to keep the lights on. They have to keep the wheel running or the wheel spinning in their organizations. And they can't just pull everybody off of that and put them on a new project and let everything else just kind of fall to the wayside.
That's
And
right.
so you we really want to make sure our clients don't have to think too much about it. It's like, let us develop the POC, let us put this together. We're going to communicate with you every step of the way, but it has to be something that is frictionless for them. It's not a stress addition for them, but it's actually like, hey, let's keep this think tank running and let them work out the hard problems. They've done this before. We've got the expertise, and we'll do it in the best way, in the most efficient way possible. So that way you can keep the lights on and keep going.
Yeah, and like I say, it's a partnership. We bring expertise to fill gaps, and the client understands their problem. And so, in creating a lab structure, it really is a true example of us partnering with our clients so that they feel like we've got their back, and then we're helping them. We're also teaching them the correct processes to get to innovation faster. So yeah, so now we're off to the races. We've got our labs team formulated, and so the next step is to build a solid design foundation so that the work that we're doing, not just with the 5 minutes or less experience, but across the platform in the future, the work that we're doing and making this happen isn't lost, and it can easily be extended to the rest of the organization as they scale. So we set out to create an initiative around building a standardized set of design components that can be used in cutting the time to develop applications for any piece of their platform in half. The key to a successful handoff of any design documentation is what we call living documentation. And here's an example of it. What you see is instead of static mock-ups, we're building basically a complete design system that has actual interactive components built into it. Each component that we're looking at here, is not just defining what the visual design is, but how each component works, how accessible it is to audiences, especially those with disabilities, and any technical constraints. So really what a design system is it's a single source of truth that reduces redundancy, it reduces tech and design debt. And what we find ROI on a design system, is that it really saves about 30 to 50% development time, as well as design team time. So over the long haul, it keeps the UX consistent and efficient so that the organization can focus on solving problems instead of solving operational and implementation problems.
Well, so you're telling me that I should not use MS Paint or PowerPoint to manage my designs for my product?
As long as you have AI operating the MS Paint, I think you'll be all right.
It'll keep everything in order for you.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. I'll keep using Paint.
But not only that, success that we have with creating a design system, but we also needed to make sure that the tech stack was in order. Like I said earlier, the code base was a nightmare. So what is going to become a platform for this client for further ambitions as this idea expands and matures and we work on other ideas? And boy, did this idea expand and mature, which we'll get into in a little bit as to where it went. But so we built out the 5 minutes or less MVP, and we put it into practice with a short list of customers that were psyched, to get involved. So we did this in 6 months. We had a fully built solution, and in terms of cutting onboarding time in half, remember it was a 2x goal. We actually far exceeded that. And with these initial customers, we were seeing over 70% reductions in onboarding time. So totally blew past our success benchmarks on this project.
Yeah, I mean, when they talk about 2x or 10x developers, I mean it's also 2x 10x designers or
Yeah,
10x product strategists, and that equates to an exponential increase in getting out to market, not losing opportunity costs that are lost because they had competition that were launching similar things or trying to launch similar things, and so this became successful in a very short period of time.
big time. Yeah, no, we were on a roll from this project, and that was really empowering the client. It was empowering us, and it was really the trust through this process was really achieved. They really knew we had their best interests at heart. So labs was underway.
So, what else came from the lab's effort?
All right. Well, many things. If we go back to the strategic roadmap, online ordering enablement is broken. Build a leading digital ordering experience that's device and location agnostic, that drives order growth and solves for all ordering situations. So we're going to drive that solution into high octane. And the second objective, tech debt is breaking us, and we need to modernize our code base. So we're well underway on that. And increased integration capabilities means increased market share, and we're about to get into that. So we got the concept team back together from the 5 minutes or less team, and they're super pumped about how this turned out. And they're ready. Now we're ready to tackle the long range future. And so the team came up with the following mission statement: we are committed to developing the restaurant of the future through unified multi-channel digital ordering and channel management that creates effective, high-touch customer and consumer experiences, positioned for efficient scalability and market leadership in digital ordering. Enter DCX.
Dun, dun,
So
dun.
DCX is a long-range transformation plan that we worked hand in glove, with the client, building on the experience of the 5 minutes or less. And really, what it is creating a vision and a roadmap to improve digital ordering experience wholesale. That is device and location agnostic. The ultimate ROI of this is really to decrease training costs, decrease customer support costs, reduce what in the industry they call AHT, which means average handle time, increase sales, and then get savings from making changes earlier in the design life cycle rather than later, and then a shorter development time. It's really sort of planning out the design and development process of setting up a restaurant brand online, online ordering online, by understanding your customer base and the UX best practices that'll save you time and money in the short term. So, for restaurant customers, that means increased user productivity, decreased user errors, improved conversion. So it's really a platform in and of itself. And so, as you can see on, really the screens that we're showing you, it really is the next chapter in digital ordering. So what it really is based around a 2.0 online ordering experience, a simpler future for restaurants. It's built on the principles of the 5 minutes or less, and it basically allows customers to quickly spin up a online ordering website, but not just for a web browser, but also quickly spin up a kiosk for their restaurant. Also develop their mobile experience. It also involved integrating, additional key online ordering channel extensions for their future expansions to their online ordering platform beyond kiosk and mobile. Really expanding their operation to the future. And so, really, some of the examples that we're showing are some kiosk examples, mobile app ordering. But what you see in all of this is a unified brand that's defined in the restaurant management software that we would be developing. You're seeing those brand styles and those brand extensions happening throughout all of the consumer touchpoints, whether they be mobile or kiosk or online menu displays, yeah, you name it. And so what it allows through the designer component in the platform, it allows customers to manage their digital brand experiences in one place. It gets them away from the challenge of having disconnected branding across all of their touch points. There's an educational layer to it. There's a support framework to it. AI is built into the support framework so that customers can go and ask questions without waiting for a human support agent to get back to them, and that was a huge value. The current estimate was it costs about $1 per minute for the average call center individual to service a customer. The more integration of AI into that, they save widely on customer support expenses and cost.
All right, let's talk about the results. Let's show the audience some of the numbers and what metrics improved and by how much.
Absolutely. So some really great metrics, which really proves out the ROI, the work that we've done for the customer. From a development time savings facet, development velocity increased 40% because teams stopped rebuilding the same components and tech debt was reduced. In terms of cost avoidance, $2 million really in avoided technical debt and rework. From a user impact standpoint, task completion went from 45% to about 87% in the first month. So customers were able to do more with the improved software. From a business standpoint, like we said, customer onboarding time cut in half, but also the ancillary benefit to that is support tickets went down 60%. So here we are, 1 year later. So really what it has is a multiplier effect. 6 months later, the customer is applying our methodology through the lab's effort towards this product launch. They really were able to go from an 18-month development cycle to a 6-month launch, and that's pretty significant. And now they've gone from losing enterprise deals due to poor UX to winning deals because the experience is superior. So all in all, an incredible success story.
Great. Looking back at this transformation, what is the most important lesson other companies should take from this client's experience?
The biggest lesson is that user experience problems are almost never actually user experience problems. They're organizational alignment problems that manifest as poor UX. It's important to remember that. Our client's interface wasn't confusing because the designers lacked skill. It was confusing because 7 different stakeholders had 7 different ideas about what the product should accomplish. The companies that achieve transformations like our clients share 3 characteristics. First, they're willing to acknowledge that the problem might be bigger than they initially thought. And that takes bravery. The client called us thinking they needed a visual refresh, but they were open to discovering that they needed strategic realignment, and that's a huge shift. And then second, they're committed to user-centered decision-making, even when it conflicts with internal preferences. And third, they understand that transformation requires investment in process, not just deliverables.
Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you all, and I think this is a good place to end the episode. And just wanted to say thanks for tuning in. Scott, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much. I had a great time.
And just want to say, we're Impact. We've been in business for over 20 years, launch hundreds of digital products, and provide the cheat code to successful software product launches. We turn chaotic B2B and B2C enterprise projects into predictable wins through proven strategic workshops and de-risk roadmaps. So until next time, like and subscribe, and thanks again for tuning in. Take
Thanks
care.
a lot.
Have you ever played a video game and discovered a cheat code that instantly unlocks abilities that would have taken months to develop? I'm curious, what would it mean for your business if you could access a similar cheat code for your software challenges? What if you could bypass months of trial and error and immediately tap into proven expertise? I've noticed that many organizations spend years developing specialized software expertise internally, often through costly mistakes and setbacks. Would you agree that's a common challenge in your industry as well? At my company Impact, we function as that cheat code for companies looking to transform complex software into intuitive experiences. Our clients gain immediate access to 20 plus years of specialized knowledge and an experience of launching hundreds of software digital products in many different industries without having to develop it all internally. You might be wondering, how does this actually translate to business results? Well, companies we work with typically see go-to-market times reduced by up to 50%, their overall NPS scores rocket up, and their product to development teams' efficiency significantly improved. Instead of struggling through costly mistakes, they accelerate directly to solutions that work. This is why organizations from startups to Fortune 500 partners with us for years. We consistently help them solve problems in weeks that might otherwise take months or years. If you're responsible for digital transformation or product development, wouldn't it make sense to at least explore whether this cheat code could work for your specific challenges? From boardroom ideas to code, this is what we do best. Visit our website at IIIMPACT.io. You can see the link below to schedule a free strategy session. It's just a conversation about your unique situation, not a sales pitch. And you'll walk away with valuable insights regardless of whether we end up working together. Thank you.